I'm 33 years old, and for most of my adult life, I've considered myself a decent judge of people. I've had bad roommates, toxic friends, a couple messy breakups, nothing I couldn't recover from. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what just happened. It started 6 months ago, when my younger cousin Maya, 23, reached out to me completely out of the blue. I hadn't heard from her in years, since she was a teenager. We'd grown up in different states, and while our families were close, we never really bonded. She was always the wild one, rebellious, the kind of person who said whatever she wanted without thinking. Last I'd heard, she'd dropped out of community college, was working random gigs, and couch surfing around the city. When she messaged me, her tone was different. She said she was trying to turn her life around and just needed a place to land temporarily while she got back on her feet. She promised it wouldn't be longer than 2 weeks. Said she had a job lined up at a local cafe and just needed a stable place until her first paycheck came in. I was hesitant, but I live alone in a 2-bedroom townhouse, and I figured I could help. It wasn't like I had anyone else in the guest room. I talked to my mom about it, and she was actually happy. Told me she was proud of me for giving Maya a chance. Said maybe I could be a positive influence in her life. So I said yes. The day she arrived, everything seemed fine. She was bubbly, a little too cheerful maybe, but I chalked it up to nerves. She brought 2 huge duffel bags, a pink suitcase with a broken zipper, and a backpack with a patch that said, "I'll sleep when I'm dead." I noticed something weird almost immediately. Not that she was messy, which she was, or loud, also true, but that she seemed nosy. The first night she asked to use my bathroom instead of the guest one because the light was too bright. Then she commented on my shampoo. Not a big deal. But the way she said it, it felt like she'd memorized the label. Later that night, I caught her in the hallway staring into my office, even though I'd closed the door. She laughed it off, said she got lost. I didn't push it. People can be awkward when adjusting to a new place. But by day 4, the red flags were turning into flares. She wasn't going to work. At all. She said the cafe pushed her start date back. But I noticed she was staying up all night and sleeping until noon. When I finally asked her what the new start date was, she said she'd forgotten to check the email. That night, she made dinner, unprompted, but used ingredients I had just bought for my own meal prep, including an expensive bottle of olive oil I'd been saving. I wasn't even mad about the food. What bugged me was that she never asked, never said thank you, and still let it slide. Because that's what you do for family, right? But here's where it starts to get really weird, and this is just the beginning. 2 weeks passed, and Maya still hadn't started that cafe job. Every time I asked, she'd wave it off with a vague excuse. Shift mix-ups, manager out sick, system delays. She said she was working on getting a bartending gig instead, which sounded equally sketchy since she never left the house long enough to apply anywhere. Meanwhile, she'd made herself very comfortable in my home. My guest room turned into an explosion of clothes, makeup, old takeout, and, somehow, sand. There was sand in the carpet, even lived near a beach. Still, I kept telling myself it was temporary. Family, grace, patience. Then I noticed something made my stomach twist. I have a silver ring that belonged to my grandmother. She gave it to me, but she passed. A simple band with tiny floral engravings. I kept it in a small dish on my vanity, right next to my hairbrush. I wore it often, but always put it back in the same place. One morning I went to grab it, and it was gone. Now I don't lose things. I'm meticulous about my space. I tore my room apart, checked under the bed, behind the dresser, inside every drawer. Nothing. So I asked Maya. She didn't even blink, just said, "Oh, I haven't seen it," like I'd asked if she'd seen my car keys. No concern, no follow-up, no offer to help look. Then she added, "Maybe you left it at work?" I hadn't worn the ring to work in months. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. My mind kept replaying everything. Her odd behavior, the lies about her job, the bathroom incident, the late-night hallway wandering. Something didn't add. The next morning, I checked the bathroom trash after she left for an interview. Hidden under a wad of tissues and an empty concealer bottle, I found the receipt for a pawn shop 3 blocks away. Item sold. Antique silver ring with floral detail. $42. I sat there on the edge of the tub, holding that crumpled receipt like it was radioactive. My hands were shaking, not just from anger, but from disbelief. She really did it. She stole from me, lied to my face, sold something that meant more to me than she could possibly understand. But instead of confronting her, I put the receipt in my drawer and stayed quiet, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted to see what she'd do next. And trust me, she did not disappoint. After I found the pawn receipt, I didn't sleep much. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with this gnawing, crawling feeling under my skin, like there was something worse coming that I hadn't figured out yet. I didn't confront Maya right away. I wanted to wait, to gather more. I needed her to feel comfortable, safe, unaware that I knew anything. So I started watching, the way she'd been watching. That's when I noticed something else. Maya was using my things. All things. and not just the usual shampoo borrowing or sneaking into my snack drawer. She'd been wearing my clothes. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then I caught her slipping out of the house one afternoon in my denim jacket. It had a tiny rip on the collar, completely unmistakable. I said nothing, just logged the moment in my mental file. Later that night, I found it stuffed under her laundry pile on the floor of the guest room, now smelling like her cheap perfume and weed. Again, I said nothing, but the part that truly got under my skin? She'd started talking to me online using my... I found out through a weird fluke. She left her laptop open, she rushed out to run errands, and curiosity got the better of me. Normally, I'd never snoop, but at this point, mine had already been crossed. I was just trying to figure out how far things... She had a fake Instagram account with my name, my photo as the profile, taken from a vacation I went on last year, captioned as if it was her. It was surreal, scrolling through my life, rewritten in her chaotic, filtered voice. She had posted about her promotion at a job she didn't have, pictures of my living room, my dog, my wine glass sitting on the patio table. But the followers? That was what stopped me cold. There were men commenting on every post. Heart emoji, flirty messages. She'd been flirting with strangers, arranging to meet up. As me. I slammed the laptop shut and sat there, paralyzed. I wasn't just dealing with a messy guest anymore. I was living with someone who was actively trying to become me. And then, the mirror broke. Literally. I came home from work a few days later to find my full-length mirror in the hallway shattered. Maya claimed she knocked it over while vacuuming, which was rich because she'd never touched the vacuum before in her life. When I asked her why she didn't clean up the glass, she shrugged, said she figured I'd want to replace it anyway since it wasn't flattering. I laughed in disbelief. Flattering? She just smiled. This vacant, too wide smile. That night, she made dinner again. Used the expensive plates I keep tucked away in the back of the cabinet, the ones I only take out for holidays, or guests I actually like. She poured wine into the crystal glasses my sister gifted me when I bought the house, and then she sat at the head of the table, my seat, and when I walked into the room, she raised her glass and said, "Rough day? You look tired." That was the first time I felt afraid of her, because there was something behind her eyes that didn't match her face, something cold, something calculating, and I hadn't even seen the worst yet. I started locking my bedroom door at night. It felt ridiculous. This was my house. But after the mirror, the stolen ring, and the impersonation, I couldn't shake the feeling that Maya was crossing boundaries on purpose. She wanted me to feel off balance, or worse, replaced. Still, I kept pretending everything was fine, let her think she was getting away with it. I smiled when she borrowed clothes, laughed off her weird questions about my friends, even thanked her once when she cleaned the kitchen, which she only did after leaving a disaster for 2 straight weeks. The thing about keeping your mouth shut? You start noticing things more, and one night I noticed something that made my skin crawl. I came home late from work and heard her in the guest room. The door was cracked. I figured she was on a call because I could hear her voice, light, flirtatious, breathy, except she was using my name again. I froze in the hallway. She was talking to someone on speakerphone, but the voice on the end wasn't clear. What I could hear, though, was her telling him about her job in marketing, the neighborhood he just bought a home in, and how she lived alone, just her and her dog. It was word for word what I'd written in my actual dating profile months ago. That's when it hit me. She was using my profile, or at least pieces of it. I backed away quietly, made my way to my room, and sat there for 20 minutes trying to decide what to do. I couldn't let this go on, but I didn't have solid proof, just instinct and a growing folder of red flags, and then, pure luck dropped it in my lap. That night, while I was brushing my teeth, I got a notification on my phone. Maya had accidentally connected her Bluetooth speaker to my phone. She must have used it earlier and forgot to disconnect. I tapped the icon to turn it off, but noticed something strange. There was a file open on her phone, a voice memo. I shouldn't have listened, but I did. I sent the file to myself and hit play. What I heard made my blood run cold. It was a recording of me, in my own home, talking on the phone with my best friend a few days earlier, word for word, laughing about work drama, mentioning what I'd made for dinner, casually venting about a coworker. She had recorded me, without my knowledge, without my consent, and when I checked the file name, it said, Practice 3 Measure. There were multiple recordings. I sat on the floor for a long time after, because this wasn't just a freeloader overstaying her welcome. This was something else entirely. Maya wasn't just pretending to be me online. She was rehearsing, and I had no idea how far she planned to take it. The next day, I couldn't look at her the same. Maya was cheerful as ever, wandering around the kitchen in one of my oversized hoodies like she'd always lived there. She offered to make pancakes, said something about wanting to start fresh, be more helpful around the house. I nodded along, played dumb, but every cell in my body was screaming. I could still hear that recording in my head, my own voice, captured and labeled like some bizarre character study. After she left that morning, said she had a volunteer shift at an animal shelter, I knew I had to do something. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly, but I went into the guest room. It was worse than I expected. The room smelled like a mix of vanilla lotion and damp laundry. Clothes were piled everywhere. Makeup dust coated the nightstand. There were mugs with dried coffee in them, crumpled receipts, a weird amount of half-burned candles. Her duffel bags were wide open, stuffed with tangled clothes and chargers. But then I noticed a black hardcover notebook under the bed. No label, no name, no lock. I don't know why I hesitated. I already knew she was impersonating. Still, it felt like crossing some unspoken line, but curiosity won. I pulled it out and opened to the middle. It wasn't a journal. It was a script. Pages and pages of things I had said, or things she imagined I'd say. Written like scenes from a play. Laugh at joke, touch his arm, smile like you've known him forever. Don't bring up work unless he asks. Sound chill but intelligent. She said she likes peppermint tea at night. Replace chamomile with peppermint by Wednesday. It was horrifying. There were even references to my social media posts, ones I hadn't shared in months. She'd written analysis next to them. Too serious. Be softer when I talk about dogs. Might delete this one. Doesn't sound like her. Her. As in, me. She was studying me, copying my habits, editing me like I was a character she was preparing to play. The last page I flipped to had a single line, scrawled in red ink. I could be her. No one would know. My stomach turned, because suddenly it all clicked. The stolen ring, the fake profile, the mirror, the voice recordings, the dinner in my seat. She wasn't just pretending. She was erasing me. I put the notebook back exactly how I found it, took pictures of every page with my phone, then left the room and locked myself in mine. For hours I sat on the bed, rereading those pages over and over. That night, I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I just kept thinking, if this is how far she's gone already, what happens next? After reading her script, I couldn't unsee it. Every time Maya spoke, I listened for rehearsed patterns. Every smile looked practiced. Every laugh, every offhand comment felt like something she'd scribbled in that black notebook the night before. She wasn't talking to me anymore. She was talking as me, testing her performance. I started keeping my bedroom door locked around the clock, even during the day. My coworkers noticed I seemed distracted. My best friend kept texting asking if I was okay. I lied and said I was just tired, maybe fighting a cold. The truth was, I didn't know what to say. Hey, my cousin's trying to replace me and maybe steal my identity wasn't something I could casually drop into a conversation. But it got worse. It was a Thursday night when I noticed she hadn't come home yet. I didn't care. Frankly, I was relieved for the quiet. But when I checked the front door camera the next morning out of habit, I froze. There she was, walking up the path, wearing my favorite outfit, down to the earrings, the jeans with the tiny paint stain on the back pocket, the black knit top I wore on my last birthday, even the boots I had put in the closet for the winter. Her hair was styled like mine. Same parted wave, same glossed lips. It wasn't just an outfit, it was a costume. She didn't see the camera, didn't know I was watching the footage from bed. She looked like someone returning from a really good date, and that's when it hit me, had gone on a date, as me. I bolted upright, pulled out my laptop, and opened the dating app I hadn't in months. And sure enough, my account had been reactivated. My photos were still up, but the bio was tweaked slightly. My job title was off by one word. The phrasing felt just slightly off. And then I saw the message history. Someone named Zach had been chatting with me all week. Dinner plans, compliments, flirty messages about how I looked even better in person. Maya had met him, face to face, using my name, my profile, my clothes. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling like my brain had disconnected from reality. This wasn't just identity theft anymore. It was psychological warfare. She wanted to be me, out there in the world, wearing my life like a second skin, and I had no idea how far she'd already taken it. It was a Saturday morning when everything snapped. I was still reeling from the dating app discovery, debating whether to contact Zach, the poor guy who had unknowingly gone on a date with my cousin Asmi, when my phone buzzed with a message from my best friend Liana. Why didn't you say anything? I saw you yesterday. You looked amazing. But girl, cold much? I just stared at the message. I hadn't seen Liana in 2 weeks. We'd been trying to plan a catch-up coffee, but work had gotten in the way. I hadn't left the house the day before, other than to drag the trash bins out. I messaged her back. What do you mean? I didn't go anywhere yesterday. 3 dots. Then, wait, what? You walked right past me outside the lantern at lunch. You were wearing that black top and those boots you love. I called your name and waved. You looked at me, straight in the eyes, and just kept walking. I didn't reply. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might throw up. She saw Maya, wearing my clothes, looking like me, and she'd looked Liana dead in the face and kept walking. I called her immediately. She picked up with, "You're freaking me out." I told her everything. The fake profile, the stolen ring, the recordings, the journal, the date, the outfit, the mirror, everything. There was a long pause. Then she whispered, "That wasn't just her pretending, was it? She wants to be you." That's when it hit me. This wasn't about a phase, or chaos, or immaturity. This was about replacement, not admiration, not envy, obsession. Liana insisted we meet in person immediately. She didn't feel comfortable letting me stay in that house any longer, but Maya was still living there. I didn't know where to go. I hadn't even processed how deep this had gone. Liana asked me one thing before we hung up. Has she ever asked about your passwords? I said no, but after the call, I checked my laptop, and there it was. A failed login attempt on my email from the night before. She hadn't asked, because she didn't need to. She was already halfway in. The next morning, I woke up determined. I couldn't keep living like this, locked in my own room, afraid of someone who smiled in my face and slipped into my skin the second I turned around. I decided it was time. Maya had to leave. No more waiting, no more games, no more hoping she'd just get it. I rehearsed the speech, firm, calm, final. I'd give her 24 hours to pack her stuff. I even looked up short-term storage options and local shelters, just in case she tried to play the "I have nowhere to go" card again. I wanted to cover every angle, but when I opened my bedroom door, something was off. The hallway was spotless. The bathroom door was open. No steam, no mess, no overflowing trash bin. I walked to the guest room and braced myself to knock. It was already open, and the room? Empty. I stood in the doorway, stunned. Her bags were gone. The mattress was stripped. The drawer she'd crammed full of makeup was bare. Even the candles were gone. Just like that. She'd left. No text. No explanation. At first, I felt this wave of pure relief wash over, like someone had lifted a cinder block off my chest. I almost laughed. Maybe she had realized it had gone too far. Maybe my silence, my withdrawal, my locked doors had sent a message. But then I walked into the kitchen. My laptop was missing, gone from its usual spot on the counter. I checked my office, checked the smart speaker in the living room. It had been unplugged and taken too. I ran to my bedroom and checked my jewelry box. 2 more pieces were missing. Then I opened my email. She hadn't taken the laptop to erase evidence. She'd taken it to leave a message. Because in my inbox, waiting like a snake coiled and patient, was a single draft saved in my own email account. No subject, just one line. You don't know how to be you anymore. But I do. My throat went dry. She hadn't just left. She wasn't running. She was preparing. I just didn't know for what. Not yet. I spent the next 48 hours in a haze of denial, dread, and paranoia. At first, I told myself it was over. Maya was gone. The nightmare had ended, and I could slowly start putting my life back together. But that draft email, it echoed in my head every time I closed my eyes. You don't know how to be you anymore. But I do. It wasn't a goodbye. It was a threat, an announcement. And then it started. It began small. A friend texted me saying it was so good seeing me again. I hadn't left the house in 2 days. I asked where they saw me. They didn't answer. A few hours later, someone tagged me in a photo on Instagram. It was from across the street, blurry, distant, but it looked like me. Same build, same walk, same coat I had thrown in the donation bin 2 weeks ago. The caption? Always running into this beauty around the neighborhood, except that coat was gone. Then came the email. A recruiter reached out about a job I didn't apply for. A man I'd gone on one Hinge date with last year emailed me saying he had a great time catching and maybe we shouldn't have ended things so soon. My bank flagged an attempt to open a new credit card under my name. My landlord texted me, asking if I was planning to renew the lease for the second apartment I'd just rented 2 blocks away. She was moving in. Literally. She was using my identity to start a new life, in my city, within walking distance. When I visited the building, pure panic driving me, I found the name on the mailbox. My first and last name, neat and printed. Apartment 3B. I didn't buzz the door. I didn't need to. She was already living the life I'd built, but neater, smarter, more polished. And for the first time since she left, I realized something terrifying. Maya didn't want to ruin me. She wanted to replace me, publicly, perfectly, permanently. And now? She was almost there. I stood in front of apartment 3B for what felt like hours. My hand hovered near the buzzer. I was shaking, stomach tight, brain screaming at me to do something. But every option felt wrong. Call the police? And say what? My cousin is impersonating me better than I can? Try to confront her? Alone? Risk walking into a trap? I backed away and left. But not for good. Instead, I filed a police report for identity theft, froze my credit, flagged my accounts. I spent an entire weekend on the phone with banks, agencies, anyone who would listen. Most of them were polite but passive, acting like this was just another run-of-the-mill fraud case. But it wasn't. This was my life, my body, my voice, my name, and she was wearing it better than I ever could. Then came the final hit. Liana texted me a screenshot. Her face was pale in the tiny profile photo beside the message. You just sent me this? I miss you. Coffee tomorrow? Same spot? Except I hadn't sent that. Maya had. She was reaching out to my best friend, picking up where I had left off, filling in the gaps I hadn't filled, slowly stitching together the parts of me I'd let unravel. She knew everything. My routines, my tone, my past, my people. I tried to warn Liana, but she didn't believe me at first. She said the message sounded like me, read like me. She even said she could hear my voice when she read it. That was the moment it all crashed down. Maya hadn't stolen my life. I'd handed it over piece by piece without realizing. The emails, the conversations, the way I over-explained myself, the openness, the patterns. My life wasn't private. It was public, predictable, accessible. All she had to do was pay attention, and she did, relentlessly. 2 nights ago I came home from the grocery store to find my front door unlocked. Not kicked in, not broken, just open. Inside, nothing was missing. Not technically, but everything was wrong. My books were rearranged. One of my sweaters, one I hadn't worn in weeks, was draped over the chair. My scent diffuser had a different oil. The trash had been taken out, and on my vanity, placed perfectly in the center of the tray, was the silver ring, the one she pawned. I didn't sleep that night. I sat with the lights on, holding that ring, waiting for something, anything, to make sense. But nothing did, because the truth was worse than I imagined. She didn't want to be in my life. She wanted to be me and leave me behind like a ghost. And the scariest part? She almost pulled it off. Update. I moved, changed my number, wiped my social accounts. I'm rebuilding, privately, slowly. I've filed everything I can, told everyone who matters. Liana believes me now. She saw Maya walking past the cafe window last week, wearing my old scarf. She waved. Maya didn't wave back. She just smiled, like she'd won. But I'm still here, watching, waiting, because this story isn't over. It's just quiet now, and quiet doesn't always mean safe.